So it's confirmed, Final Fantasy XV, the game originally announced a few millennia ago as Final Fantasy Versus 13 for PS3, is totally coming out on PS4 this year, for real. And so to celebrate, I'm going to do what I've wanted to do for ages but was never allowed, and make a Friday feature all about the greatest RPG series in history. Final Fantasy. I know Dave's excited, and I know Nath's excited, and I know Delsin is so excited he's decided to dress up as Vincent for this episode. Hi Delsin. Oh, that suits you. You should stay like that forever. Anyway, without further ado, here are 10 times Final Fantasy blew us away. Now, this list is by no means definitive. Final Fantasy has so many standout moments it would be impossible to cram them all into a 10-minute video, and so these are my personal favourite from nearly 2 decades of playing the series. The first entry is from Final Fantasy VII, a game that could quite easily fill this entire video, what with its heart-stopping main character deaths, gargantuan materia monsters erupting from a crater, and its villain who can do this to a 40-foot cobra. Even more memorable for me, however, was the moment when fan-favourite spiky-haired lion dog thing Red 13 learned the truth about his father during a visit to his hometown of Cosmo Canyon. Years before the events of the game, the canyon was attacked by the G tribe, with Red 13 believing Daddy scarpered like a shameless coward. Battle your way through the cavern underneath Cosmo Canyon and past that boss you can kill by chucking a single X potion on it, and you soon discover this was absolutely not the case. In one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in not just games but any medium ever, I think, be that film, music, literature or interpretive dance, Red 13, or Nanakai, let's call him by his true name, learns that his father Seto didn't flee, but in fact single-handedly fought the G until their poisonous arrows turned him to stone. I was not prepared for this as a 12-year-old whose only emotional response to video games up until that point had been to giggle at Crash Bandicoot's idle animations. And yet here I was enjoying some nice healthy sadness as Nanakai howled and crystal tears fell from Seto's stony cheeks. When I was a kid, we didn't have trailers. Instead, we went into Electronics Boutique and read the back of boxes. It was an essential part of deciding which new game to beg my parents for, and in my opinion, Final Fantasy VIII has the best back of the box ever, especially this sentence: stunning motion-captured CG cinema segments seamlessly integrated into gameplay. I didn't have a clue what that meant, but it sounded really cool when I said it to my friends on the playground. And in practice it was, to use some typical back-of-the-box hyperbole, stunning. Especially in entry number 2, the Dolet Seed exam an hour or so into Final Fantasy VIII. It begins with this scene, which got me really fired up to take it in turns, dealing 40 damage to harmless mobs. But look at this, CG boat crashes against the shore, in-game character models leap out. This entire section only gets more exciting and climaxes with Squall, Zell and Selphie legging it from a giant robot spider thing, an X-ATM-092. I remember its name from the back of the Triple Triad card. The final part of which has you in control of Squall as he runs away from a CG cutscene. It is possible to actually defeat X-ATM-092 during your escape, but then why would you not want to watch Quistis doing this? One of my favourite things about Final Fantasy is that warm blanket of familiarity you can snuggle under while you play it. You'll control a party of lovable but unlikely heroes. Ooh. You'll journey through a beautiful and magical world. There'll be a hideously evil villain who'll try and destroy the world, but you'll definitely stop them. Oh, lovely. Unless we're talking about entry number 3, where Final Fantasy VI arch-nasty Kefka actually successfully destroys the world and installs himself as God. I remember watching this mouth slack, unbelieving as bits of game I'd merrily adventured through were torn to shreds. This is the kind of thing that happens years before a game, you know, as backstory in a kind of, well, band of unlikely heroes, things have been awful since the apocalypse, if only someone could come and fix them kind of way. Not halfway through the flipping game. What follows is heartbreaking. Your party members are scattered, horrible mega bosses are let loose, Celes attempts suicide. I've never felt more helpless in a game. The fact that Final Fantasy VI gives you a world to explore and protect and then puts a narrative fist through it right under your nose. A moment I will never forget. Tell you what else I'll never forget. Entry number 4. The first time you fly an airship. Mine was the Highwind in Final Fantasy VII, and the speed at which you could dash across the world was exhilarating. The perfect reward for hours of on-foot questing and random battles. Here you go, well done. Float over it all, you earned it. It was fast travel before fast travel, and everyone remembers their first time. Was it the Blackjack from 6, Final Fantasy VIII's Ragnarok, the Hildegard 3, or the Invincible from Final Fantasy IX? Tell us in the comments which was the first Final Fantasy airship to make you feel the virtual wind through your hair. We're going straight to the nearly end of Final Fantasy IX for our next entry, and a sequence that hit me right in the sympathy sack when I first played through it in my mid-teens. Zidane, Final Fantasy IX's normally upbeat protagonist, is having a very bad day. He's just found out he's a soulless genome created by Garland with the mission of harvesting the souls of everyone on the planet. Boo-hoo, Zidane. Everyone has problems in their teens. And on comes entry number 5. You're not alone. Looking back, this entire sequence seems unapologetically histrionic, but I loved a good mope when I was 15, and that's just what Zidane does. It's the music that transforms this overblown bit of turn-based attention-seeking into video game magic, however. It's possibly my favourite Uematsu composition in the series, swooping low to make you feel Zidane's despair, but also swelling into a hearty crescendo as his friends come in to save the day. Yes, Delsin, I agree. Final Fantasy is all about friendship in the end. And I'm glad you said that as well, because if I'd have said it, I'd have looked like a complete wuss. We're travelling all the way back to Final Fantasy IV for our next entry, the amazing sequence where Cecil, your Dark Knight protagonist, whom you'll have probably put a fair bit of effort into levelling up, casts aside the darkness in his heart and becomes a white magic-wielding paladin. Good for you, Cecil, but did you really have to start from level 1 again? Final Fantasy IV came to PlayStation in 2002 as part of Final Fantasy Anthology, but back when it was originally released in 1991, this kind of storytelling was incredible in video games, not fully revealing your main character for a good 5 or so hours, having the player partake in some of his more questionable actions beforehand. Amazing. And the music when Cecil confronts his mysterious mirror self, Uematsu outdoing himself yet again. What a scene, and what a game, by the way. If you've enjoyed the latter titles in the series and never played 4, then get that sorted like yesterday. We're talking summons for entry number 7, or Eidolons, or GFs, or Aeons, or Espers, or whatever your preferred term is for the sensational godlike creatures you can use throughout the series to send your enemies packing. If I had to pick one specific moment when it comes to summon magic, I'd have to go with when I first called Bahamut in Final Fantasy VII, in the battle with Demon's Gate in the Temple of the Ancients. His Mega Flare smashed that pain in the ass for 2,000 hit points. Huge damage at the time, and the graphics, oh my god. If you managed to play episode Duske, the Final Fantasy 15 demo, you'll have seen PS4 Ramu too, another standout Esper moment. Look at him, he's the size of a small mountain. Again, everyone will have their own personal favourite summon moments, but here are a few of mine. Cypher cutting Odin in half in Final Fantasy VIII and then Gilgamesh avenging him. That bit near the end of 13 where your party and their Eidolons invade Eden, the battle between Bahamut and Alexander in Final Fantasy IX, Yuna right at the end of Final Fantasy X, massive spoilers, sending her Aeons to their final rest. Speaking of Yuna and sendings, that brings us very neatly onto entry number 8. Her very first sending in Kilika. This was the part where Final Fantasy X turned around and said, "Hey guys, I know I look damn good. I know I've got lots of primary colours and you're using me to show off your brand new PS2 to all your mates, and that's fine, but I just want you to know I'm deadly serious here. So serious that I'm going to kill off an entire peace-loving beachside village and then make you sit through a cutscene where Yuna sends them all to the far plane while everyone else cries. Okay, we got a deal?" Deal. Final Fantasy X, deal. As long as you promise to make the graphics, like, really, really amazing. Yeah, of course, said Final Fantasy X, and it did, and they were. And what an incredibly moving and beautiful scene this is, showing the enormous mental and magical strength of our young summoner, and also the weight of the burden she must carry throughout the game. All of Final Fantasy X's narrative themes packed into one thunderous emotional wallop of a scene. Back to Final Fantasy VII for entry number 9, and it's the culmination of the Cid, Shera going to space subplot. Cid, who'd been dreaming of visiting the stars since forever, but especially since his rocket was grounded after a failed launch, finally gets his wish when Cloud and co force their way onto a rocket planned for a collision course with Meteor. Yeah, that's right, the classic rubbish plan all fictional governments come up with when faced with impending rock from outer space doom. The rocket fails though. The oxygen tank that was the cause of Cid's animosity towards Shera is in fact faulty and does in fact blow up, causing our potty-mouthed pilot to put aside the swears and apologise and then gaze longingly out the window of the escape pod as it drifts back towards Earth. It's a beautiful scene, our heroes watching the tiny planet they've been fighting to save, as Cid eloquently likens it to a sick little kid. A sick little kid with a bad case of the Sephiroths. It's a scene that briefly removes us from the doom and gloom, a window of calm, a quiet breath of reminiscence, Cid's lifelong dream fulfilled, before the pod hurtles back to Earth and the battle with ultimate evil continues. Final entry then, and remember this list is in no particular order, but Vivi from Final Fantasy IX may just be my favourite character in the entire series, and here's a little example of why. There are more poignant scenes than this with Vivi, funnier ones, certainly more heartbreaking, but his airship to airship magic off with Black Waltz 3 as the party head for Lindblom has to be my favourite. This sequence starts with the Black Waltz attacking our party's cargo ship, bursting open barrels of lifeless black mages as they plummet helpless to Earth, poor little Vivi watching on in horror. I mean, his eyes are just two little bulbs, but somehow they are the saddest thing in the entire world. Never have I wanted a boss fight more than this. The sight of Vivi, still a child, still unaware of the tragedy that is his own life, filled with grief and then immediate, trance-inducing rage, just put me right there with him. I wanted to nail that Black Waltz to the mast and then ram the ship into a nearby mountain. Oh well, an epic CG action sequence where Vivi kicks his ass will have to do, I suppose. Just look at this. This is PS1 for goodness sake. Have some of those fire graphics. It's his own lightning magic and terrible driving that proved Black Waltz 3's downfall, however, sparking his own engine and then driving into a wall. So there you have it, 10 times Final Fantasy blew us away. Please let us know your favourite moments from the series in the comments, like this video if you liked it, and subscribe for more of these videos every Friday. Thanks for watching.